I'm going to leave in all the times that I've attempted to film this video and have been interrupted. So, for the fucking third take, I'm going to talk to you about the El Burro, the donkey, from Turner CNC. I wrote down some of the facts so we can talk about it with a little bit more specificity other than how I feel about the knife. Let me get out the sheath so you can kind of see this. The pocket sheath, deep carry pocket sheath. This is not necessarily meant, I guess, to be a defensive tool. It does not feel like a defensive tool to me, but it feels like a really great, if you're a fixed blade guy like I am, it feels like a really great backup in case, you carry something that's maybe a little bigger, more martially oriented, and so you have something for certain tasks, and then you have something, your daily grinder, if you will. Now, you know what they say, carry a good knife, carry a beater. This isn't necessarily a beater, though. It's just small, right? And you don't necessarily need to carry two knives. If you're looking for just a small knife to get you through the day and you prefer the simplicity and the reliability of fixed blades, this might be something you may be interested in. So, I am going to probably fuck up. I can't see. You can't. There it is. You can kind of see the little swedge. What I thought was kind of weird and funny is they say it gets thicker towards the tip, but I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it seems to be pretty linear. It tapers off just like every other knife. So I don't know why they said that in the description. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. I don't know what they meant by it gets thicker at the tip because I just don't really see it. It gets thinner. Anyway, not that I need a big thick tip. So it's MagnaCut, 3-inch blade, high Rockwell hardness, comes in at 15.15 thick, which is pretty common, I think, nowadays. All of the Williams blade Kaikens are 0.15, 0.14. I think a lot of people who use good steel, 3V, MagnaCut, stuff like that, 0.15 seems to be a good starting place. We don't need to have knives as thick as they used to be because the steel has gotten infinitely better, right? There's no way that's 6 inches, is it? I guess it is. 6.5 inches long, 3.25 ounces without the sheath, about 4 ounces with the sheath. So it's pretty light. This is including the aluminum scales. They're anodized orange. You can see that it has a little wasp shape, which I really like. I love when you have different contours, not just in one direction, but both, right? We want little palm swells. We want little, curves. We like our knife handles like we like our women, full of features. So anyway, the aluminum scales feel very nice in the hand. As you can see, they're pretty neutrally textured. It does have some texture to it, but it's not anything super crazy. You can see that the little depressions there where the screws go in pretty much line up with your fingers, kind of acting as finger grooves. It's not an ample grip. As you can see, it's just enough for a 4-finger grip, but it is a nice grip. I feel pretty confident with it. Like I can really leverage hard cuts if I need to. And that's me, kind of one of the appeals of this blade is it's super small, but it's got a nice chunky handle to really get behind, right? Big slab spine here right before the swedge, so you can ride it Filipino or just for press cuts, which I think is nice. It's MagnaCut, so it's stainless steel. So if you carry this in inclement weather or while while you're sweating, you're going to have to worry about it less when it comes to rust and stuff like that. I did debone a chicken with this. I did it because, honestly, I wanted a knife that was small and that I could kind of get in there. And this was in my pocket, so I said, fuck it, I'm going to take it out and use it. Cut well, and it had the nimbleness that I was really kind of looking for. So, anyway, they do come with other scales, typical in Turner CNC fashion. There is a hollow cavity inside for you to secrete butt stuff, pills, drugs, SD cards. I think this blade shape, I think it's a drop point. I'm going to fuck that up probably. I think this blade shape reminds me a lot of especially with the way they did the swedge. It reminds me a lot of the Amtac blades, Minuteman, if it was really super small and the handle wasn't as tiny. So, I mean, that's cool if you like it. You can see, I guess I don't have a comparable blade, but you can see how thick it is, you know. Fairly wide blade, I should say. Fairly wide blade. As usual, you know how I feel about their 3D printed sheaths. I think they are okay. I've seen better sheaths. You know, I think 3D printing sheaths probably allows them to do things that would probably be pretty hard to do with traditional Kydex. This sheath is not omnidirectional. I will say that, or ambidextrous. As far as I know, this is kind of how it locks in. I think it's that way. No, that one's that way. Fucking idiot. So anyway, this is how much it's taken up inside the sheath. Fortunately, it does have, oh, yeah, it does have reversible threaded pilot holes to change the side of the clip. I don't know if you could rig this up for. They said you can in the product page. They said something about horizontal carry, but I'm very unfamiliar with these weird tiny brass eyelets they use. I'm much more familiar with the typical larger Kydex eyelets where you're able to do ulti clips or soft belt loops. It's just a giant hole you can stick a screw through. So I don't know how much compatibility you're going to have with a lot of the other sheath accessories. It's kind of one of the reasons why I'm not the biggest fan of how they do their sheaths. I get it. I think they do offer some unique, advantages. But like I've said in previous reviews about Turner stuff, I almost wish they offered two different sheets. They like an industry standard Kydex sheet, and then you can have your weird 3D printed sheet. More options, I think, is always better, especially with people who seriously carry knives. As you know, you need to have different options for carry. Otherwise, you're just going to be consistently dressing around your weapon or knife or tool, whatever it is. So it carries well in the pocket. The DDC clip does, I'm sorry, yeah, this is DDC, this isn't Tracker Dan. I don't know the fucking difference. Never been a huge fan of Tracker Dan. This is a Tracker Dan clip. Let's look. Okay. So the DDC clip, it does not have a cloth grabber, and you could see the cloth grabber on the Tracker Dan clip. Okay, so that's the primary difference. Anyway, the aluminum scales feel nice. I'm a big fan of hand feel, how a knife feels in the hand. I think the scales are a big part of that. Their resin scales are nice. The Ultem scales are nice, but to me, they always feel cheap to some degree. With these are natural G10. I think. Natural G10, I think. And it's funny because the G10 on the Jin feels really nice. But the G10 here feels, it's got that, like, it just feels like plastic, where this feels more substantial. So I think it has a lot to do with the fact that these are hollow. These are thinner, right? And so you don't feel like this big chunky slab, right? So I think that's kind of why. I'm not sure why that is. It's not necessarily something that matters, but I think the user experience is a part of, the part of how you enjoy the knife, right? If it doesn't feel good in the hand, you're probably going to carry it less. The Jin feels super good in my hand. I think it's super fun to carry. It's a massive blade, and so I like to carry it. If a knife feels cheap, you're going to be less inclined to carry it, in my opinion. Because it's like, if you have a choice between a really nice pen and a dollar store ballpoint pen, you're probably going to choose the nice pen, right? Because we like to enjoy ourselves while we work. And I think knives are really no different, right? So I think the blade's stout enough to be used in an emergent clinch. If you need, there is no blade choil. There's nothing for you to get caught on, which I think is really nice. That swedge is definitely going to aid in penetration, but you're very limited on depth of penetration. So this is, to me, definitely something that is utility. The big fat belly allows you to get in and make nice slicing cuts. With the Williams blade Kaiken, you'll notice the blade sweeps away from you. That's for penetration and ease of slashing. This is not that, right? The blade doesn't sweep away for you. It keeps that belly right where it needs to be, so you can make those cuts a lot easier without having to leverage like this and end up cutting more with the tip. You're going to be able to get a lot of belly cuts with this, and I think that's a good thing. So their hardware is their simple flathead hardware. When the grips stay on, I think it's great. I had a few issues with the Jin, but I'll preface that and say I've never had issues with Turner CNC grips before, and I've been carrying them off and on for years. So anyway, it's a pretty simple knife. I don't think there's a whole lot to go into a knife that small. There's not any jimping, if in case you were wondering, on the spine or anything like that. Pretty threadbare in that regard, but it's not a combat knife. The desire for this to stay in your hand at all times is it's not a number one priority, right? It's fairly light. It carries well. I like Magna Cut steel. It rains here a lot. There's high humidity. There's it's a wet state. It's like the Coast. You live in too, so you know kind of what I'm talking about. I tend to keep a couple of Magna Cut blades in my house because of the weather here, right? I like high carbon steel blades for just how tough they are. I love the fact that they're so hard to fuck up. But they do rust, even if you're pretty diligent with, applying bow shield and wax and stuff like that. And, if you miss an application, you'll probably get surface rust, like the surface rust on that Winkler. So, even the best laid defense, if not studiously kept up, will fall apart, right? So, I think Magna Cut has its uses. I think it's to me it's one of the best stainless steels I've used. I'm coming from S35, S30 VN, which to me were pretty brittle. I chipped and crumpled a lot of edges with previous stainless steels. I feel like D2's just so fucking hard to sharpen. It's kind of a pain in the ass. Um, I don't know why. There's a random shot towards D2 in there, but so anyway, if you are looking for a tiny little blade to carry, this might be it. Good little utility blade. I'm definitely going to keep this one. I like to have a couple of small utility blades that I can just kind of use the fuck out of. I am obviously new to the gin, and this sort of crisp fucking blade with the recurve and everything, I'm a little scared. I'm a little scared to sharpen this, but of course, got to take the plunge eventually, right? Because I've always heard that blades like these are pretty complicated. I heard that from Bantang, and he's kind of known for making blades with wicked curves, right? So, it's nice to have a pretty simple blade shape that you can re-edge super easy. And it's not something like this where you're trying to put an edge on something that's wiggling around like a snake. So I think there's room and purpose for those tiny little sort of simple utility blades. So anyway, that's kind of what I have to say on the donkey from Turner CNC. Hope your deployment's going well. Hope you're staying safe and continuing to improve yourself and getting ready for Special Forces.